Bernadette by the Four Tops. You could still get in on the chain. Cry Myself Blind. Primal Scream was last on the chain. Carolina in Santiago says, nothing better to fight the Monday blues than a dose of Johnny Marr on the show. Well, Carolina is here. So, hello, Johnny. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. Nice to be back. Oh, yeah, you're good.
Good. No, all good. Good to see you. Yeah,
it's nice to be here.
About to embark on a tour.
Well, I'm sort of in the middle of... I got back last week from about 6 weeks around the US.
Yeah.
And then, so me and the band have had, like 5 days off or something.
Oh.
And then we go off, do the same again. We start in Belfast on Thursday night. And then we go around the UK and Europe for 6 weeks. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so I feel like I'm just... I'm in the middle of it, really.
Sure. I was going to ask you about touring. I was thinking this morning when I knew you were coming on, I thought, well, I'm going to talk to you. I was thinking about touring. Is there still a feeling of, like, not a gang in an unpleasant way, but in the best way, that you're part of a gang, and it's like still kind of a childhood dream?
Yeah, I do... I didn't like it for a long time in my career.
Not?
No, in the early days, in the Smiths days, and it's one of the reasons Electronic didn't tour, because it was down to me, really. I didn't really like it. Also, the other thing was that I so liked being in the studio. I was so besotted with the recording process that I just wanted to do that all the time. So touring didn't really, measure up to me compared to making records. But from the last, I guess, I don't know, early 2000s and my 40s or something, I really took to it. And now I actually prefer it to being in the studio. So I love it. I love what a gig is. I know that might sound very obvious, but it's quite handy, to have come to that realization.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm quite, I'm still quite... I have kind of ambitions for it, if you like. Yeah. To play great shows and to be, a better front man and I always have ambitions to be a better guitar player at all times and a better singer and all of that. So I'm still sort of I'm very enthusiastic about it. Yeah. And the actual business of touring, I mean, I have heard it's said that younger musicians come off the road tired, shall we say, and older musicians should come off the road invigorated,
energized,
and it gets your wheels. So I love the travel, but particularly the shows, I think, and also me and my audience now over the years of the solo stuff, which is about 7 years now, something. We've really got we've got a thing going between me and the audience. We have an understanding, and we've got a bit of a past now, and we've got some momentum, I think. We've got a thing that I do, and we're enjoying that, really, I think.
The thing is, as well, I suppose, you got to remember that you do it night after night, but particularly in times when in the past, I mean, like a couple of years ago, I did a gig of my own at the Eden Courts Theatre in Inverness. And as soon as I got there, the first thing anybody said to me was, the Smiths played here, And it's like... there's still a sense, you go to places and it's an event, isn't it, when your favourite musician comes to your town, Well, funny enough, we're kicking off, as I said, on Thursday at the Ulster Hall in Belfast. Right, great place.
And, that was always a place that I really wanted to visit because of the sort of history of the rock bands there in the 70s. I grew up sort of, I don't know, it's just one of those things that was on my map, really, at Ulster Hall. And since we've announced that gig, that's what I mean. Oh, the Smiths played there in '84, and I remember that show. Yeah. And then maybe because of that, or for all of the above reasons, they played there in '89 or '90. So there's that prestige. So I'm looking forward to getting back there because I have a personal history with the place, and I was very eager to play Ulster Hall. Yeah.
And you like, I was a bit like football and gig venues, like you'd know your geography of Britain from, like, people would say to you Bath and you got Moles Club, Northampton, Road Menders, you knew everywhere from that.
Well, I mean, there is there's a sort of a rock roots kind of. It's a nice. I'm sure there's a book.
Johnny Marr's Rock Roots.
Pete Frame or someone, one of those guys has written. Yeah. But you do, there. It's nice that there are those places still literally on the map. Yeah. I know that. Just as I say, been going around America for 6 weeks. There's I played a few venues recently that have been still privately owned, and we just played this place in Brooklyn that was an old Polish community centre.
Yeah.
Quite a big place, but and it really prides itself on being a family-run place. And I think these days, when you go into a place that has some history and isn't generic, has music in the walls.
As in the walls, yeah.
You know, and it was maybe post-war, and it was devised for people to dance in and listen to music.
Yeah.
It feels good, and I think they sound better, those places, like the Ritz in Manchester.
Brilliant place, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that was your first show, wasn't it, with the Smiths?
It was.
Spoil Blue Rondo a la Turk.
And one of the last times I was there, I seem to remember a certain person in this room looking over and seeing someone standing on probably the tables, I think it was.
This is This is when you came on with Nile Rodgers. This when someone came on with Nile Rodgers? Yeah, but I think there was a lot of us here, wasn't there? When the bouncer tried to throw me. The bouncer said, "If you get up on that balcony again, I'm going to throw you out." I couldn't help it. It was like Beatlemania.
It was a lovely sight, Stuart. It was a lovely sight. Still got it, mate.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's see Spiral Cities, then we'll talk more with Johnny. I can see that filling the Ulster Hall and the Brighton Dome and the Roundhouse and the O2 Academy, Sheffield, Newcastle, Barrowlands, O2 Academy, Liverpool, O2 Apollo. I can see that working.
Good. Yeah, I like that one. It's that was on the new album. That was the one song I had going into the record, into the making of the record, and that I wrote in between Playland and this one, and I knew it was going to make it on the record because we played it live and it'd gone down so well with audiences. I just felt it was one of those that was like, well, it's just too good to put aside or have as a B-side or give to someone else. So I'm really proud of that. I still really like it. That Spiral Cities, that comes from Comet, Johnny's most recent solo album. Johnny Marr's here with me today. I was fascinated, something I read that you wrote or recorded, or maybe possibly both, in these kind of all-night sessions with big telly screens in your new place in Manchester. Is that right? Yeah, well, the projections on because I moved into this new studio space just outside of town, and those places are it's the top of an old factory building,
right?
And those places are few and far between now.
Yeah,
and it feels like, to me, if you go in one of those places, big high ceilings, old industrial spaces, the first thing I want to do is put a drum machine through a lot of effects pedals, and kind of be industrial, really, because I'm of that generation. So the process, they just lend themselves to that kind of artistic process and that kind of music, and I think that seeped into some of the songs. There's a song on there called New Dominions, which started off just that very thing of me just letting a drum beat go round and round through these machines for ages, and the band they'd long clocked off, and I was in there. So, but in order to get a kind of psychedelic, different mindset, we had a few projections going on the wall. We had Fox News and Al Jazeera and a sort of French news channel, and that was quite a little bit sort of disorientation, really. Without resorting to the old boring, tried and tested methods. It was a bit more modern, let's say. But so there's a real vibe. There's a real vibe in that studio, and in a way, I guess it's a little like my own Kling Klang, really.
Right. Okay. Connie Plank's place.
And I have those, as I say, sort of associations with industrial music and those kind of spaces, creating a certain kind of attitude in the music.
Because it's a futuristic record, isn't it? It's a looking forward record, isn't it? Would you say sort of optimism tempered by a bit of nervousness? Or?
Well, I think what happened was I went in there quite desolate, and I didn't have a plan for the record. I went into the making of the record as a response and as an escape to just go and make tracks. It was nothing to do with the record company or to do with career or anything. I just kind of did what I used to do at 15, 16, which was I'm a bit freaked out, and the best way to deal with it is make some tracks. And I know it's my job, and you know, I usually have a record in mind, but in this case, I just used the place to escape, and because it was my new place, I wanted to experiment in there. But I think I started off because of the change in the political scene over the last couple of years, a little bit kind of desolate, and I think it's in my nature to try and find some hope.
Yeah.
And I think kind of personally, I think that's what music's about anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big song on the record called Walk Into the Sea, which the big key line in it is, and hope breaks on me. You know? That song is, it only occurred to me maybe a week later that the title Walk Into the Sea could be construed as being very negative or very bleak, when in fact it's actually the story of like a rebirth, baptism. I write this whole little spoken word bit in the middle of it where I plunge into the sea, hoping that I'm going to come out of it, and hopefully come out of it, feeling somewhat reborn.
Yeah.
And that, in a way, is a little bit of a metaphor for what happened in the process of making the record, I think. And I think the way the record sounds.
Yeah.
So I like that it has both those emotional aspects to it, that it does feel sort of hopeful. But that wasn't planned. That was just something that none of it was planned. I think one of the reasons why the record's been so liked, particularly by fans, is because the very fact that I didn't conceptualize it going in, so therefore it's got a lot of my personality in it. I just followed my emotions, really. Sure. Lyrically as well.
Yeah. Tell us about the guitar. Do you still pick it up every day?
Yep.
Would it be a bad day the day you didn't, pick it up, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, if you get the Eurostar into Paris, and then do a bunch of press, and then you find you have to get the Eurostar back, and you end up in a hotel in Bayswater or whatever. Yeah, I will have not picked it up, and I've been too busy to be bothered about it. But if I've got the opportunity, which is most of the time, I'll make sure that I've got it with me. Yeah. So if I go away, I've gone on holiday even, or not that I've been on holiday for a long time, but I plan on going away at some point next year. But it has been on my mind a lot about what guitar I'm taking, and exactly what kind of case I'm going to have, and all of that. I'm going to do that. So yeah, to answer your question, I play. Yeah, I mean they're all over the place. Yeah, they're like the way people have plants.
They're just scattered around.
Yeah.
It's like an itch. You can't explain it to people who don't play, can you? It's like an itch almost, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's that kind of itch in your hands that you want to get your hands on it. Yeah.
And it's habitual. It's something I've been doing from being a little boy. I guess there's something sort of meditative about it. But I guess for me as well, I suppose in one way, there's a lot of people who carry notebooks around. Yeah. A lot of artists I know were taught that as a discipline, and say Brian Eno, for instance, he's always jotting things down in notebooks. Yeah. I think I use the guitar like that as well. Right. So it's a way of, I'm kind of trying to unlock things as well with the guitar. When I pick it up, I'm looking to write something. Yeah. And it's very rarely do I sit down and, perform the songs, unless I'm on stage. I pick it up to explore, I think.
I watched the great thing on YouTube with you the other day, and you were talking about Seymour Stein buying you. Was it your first Gretsch 355, and you play, and the very first thing you played on it was "Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now"? Yeah,
I mean, look, that happened quite a lot with. What used to happen when I first started, when the Smiths first started making a bit of money. What I'd do with it would be buy a guitar, but I kind of felt guilty about that. So I felt like to justify it, I would have to write a song. So I've got quite a few of them that, I made myself sort of write something pretty decent to justify paying for it. But in the case of that guitar, as with a few others, they do have music in them.
Didn't you write that and Girl Afraid in the first half an hour of owning it?
Immediately, like they were the first two things I did on it. Yeah.
Wow.
So I know it was quite a good omen, that.
That's quite good, isn't it? That's a good half hour's work, that. Yeah. No, you earned your money. Well, he bought it.
No, he bought it. I didn't even have to pay for it. Yeah.
I like that attitude. That that's a very northern working class attitude. That in order to justify buying this guitar, I've got to write a hit on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Great. Tell us about day in, day out, because I think that's a bit about you working out what you do and what it is you stand for, yeah.
Yeah, with day in, day out, I had the tune, and I mean, I think that as much as I try to avoid singing about myself, or think I do, there are some tunes, some songs and, melodies and backing tracks or whatever, that they just kind of demand that you put some emotional content in it. The song Hi Hello on the record, which was the first single, I had to sing about something that meant something to me because the tune was so kind of poignant.
Yeah.
And that was the same with Day in, Day Out. As I say, I'm usually looking for some kind of psychogeography, situationist sort of kind of concept, clever, because that's the kind of thing would turn me on, really. But I wrestled with I had this pop tune for weeks, and it was just it was just bothering me, and I was, sometimes the making of a record, an album, it possesses me, really. And everyone around me, it always has done. I become possessed by the album, and I'm distracted, I'm clumsy, I miss appointments because I'm just completely engulfed, engrossed in the making of the record. And I think you should be. Yeah. So that's what happened to me, and that was happening with this song, and I decided to write about that, about the kind of I won't say downside, but an aspect of artistic preoccupation, right? Where driven to distraction in a way, and so it isn't a song about writing a song as such. It's about obsession, and about all of the being kind of artistic temperament, I think. So I wrote about what the thing that kind of pulls me along, and sometimes it's tormenting. It can really, it's like there's lots of amazing things about being an artist, songwriter, whatever, the craft of it, the mystery of it, you're always looking for the formula, and there is no formula. And but it's about artistic sensibility and obsession.
Great. This is Day in, Day Out, like Spiral Cities, which I just played and which comes out on vinyl November the 9th. These come from a fantastic record, which if you don't know, you should know. It's out. It's been out since the early summer, called Comet. Check johnnymarr.com for all remaining international dates. Look out perhaps in Liverpool or Manchester for a man looking like he's going to throw himself off the balcony at some point. Johnny, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Stuart. Good to see you.
Johnny's in Belfast and Dublin at the end of this week, then Brighton, London, Sheffield, Newcastle, Glasgow, Liverpool, Manchester. Call the Comet, which is brilliant, it's out now. But it's still absolutely a bit of me, even after quite a few times of knowing Johnny and meeting him, that still goes, that's Johnny Marr.
You left the gig with the last note still ringing.